You are listening to Radio Maria Canada. We now present the Health Hub, hosted by Kathy Biasi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Health Hub. I'm Kathy Biasi, your host, and along with our producer, Alex Diaz, and our production assistant, Daniel Tersini, we would like to welcome you to the show. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Alex and Daniel.
Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning, Kathy.
How are you doing? Did you have a nice long weekend?
Well, yeah, actually, I feel very rested.
Nice.
Having that extra day really helped me. We had a busy weekend here at the station. We were here on Friday and Saturday once again, doing the marathon. It was an overall success, and the marathon sort of continues in terms of having people call in throughout the month for donations. The lines are still open for that, but we had a successful marathon, and I took advantage of the extra Monday. All I did yesterday was watch Netflix. That was my relaxation.
Nice. So the telethon continued. The telethon, I guess, we call that a telethon?
Yes, we can.
Okay. That continues until the end of May. What number, if people are interested to donate, number would they call into?
416-245-7117 or anytime online at radiomaria.ca.
All right. And it's going well. That's wonderful. We do need the funding. And thank you to everyone who has participated in it. What are you watching on Netflix?
I was just telling Daniel I got into Designated Survivor. I actually finished watching Suits.
Okay.
Got to the end of that, and then I got a notification about Designated Survivor, and so I started binge watching that. Terrible.
Yeah.
Once I start on Netflix.
I know. I started watching Scandal, and that is I think it was seven seasons, and like 20 odd shows every season, and my productivity level dropped dramatically. Every time I had a free minute, I sat and I watched it. Not having these commercials is deadly. I mean, I love it, but when it's a long series and
when it's there
just
for you,
binge it.
you just binge it. And they keep one of the great hooks about Netflix is you turn it on and they say, well, maybe you would like this and maybe you would like that. And wow, it is addicting.
It is.
We did something else that's addicting now. We did a puzzle on the weekend. My daughter.
Well, that's nice.
Oh, it wasn't intended. I think I've got a bit of a personality disorder when it comes to things like this, like the sports and the. My daughter was not well over the weekend, so her plans and her boyfriend actually they got nixed. So they were at home for the weekend, and they bought this 1,000-piece puzzle. Mm-hmm. And they set it up on our table. I was addicted to it. I could not stop doing this puzzle. I went to bed seeing puzzle pieces. I tell you, I don't have the type of personality to just say, okay, that is enough. Like, I'd like to get to the end of it, either with Netflix, these shows, with this puzzle. I've realized something about myself, that I have to really be careful of what I engage in, because sometimes I can just,
get fully invested. In some cases, the wrong things, and then your mind just kind of.
I mean, not harmful things, but
exactly.
I mean, it's just the amount of time I wasted doing the. I don't know, maybe it's not a waste, but we got the puzzle done.
Maybe it's something though that you need it though, right? Sometimes
I don't know.
You just need that little bit of creative release, and I think doing something like a puzzle with your family is. Something that allows for that.
I enjoyed it. And my daughter said, we should have a puzzle table. I said, no way. Because that, no way.
Okay.
No work will get done. But I didn't spend too much time outside. I didn't do an ounce of exercising because, we spent this time. My father-in-law was over. Anyways, so the weekend was good. For me, it was not a lot of exercise. Like I said, we didn't do too much. The weather was iffy. It wasn't great. We got some work done in the yard. But so I'm glad you guys all did. It was Victoria Day here in Canada. So I hope everybody who participated in that holiday had a nice one and a nice short week to take us out of the holiday. And
I heard a lot of fireworks outside my window, but I haven't actually had the opportunity to actually
watch any.
Watch any? Yeah, exactly.
I didn't. I forgot there were fireworks, and they didn't seem to come on until around 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. It took me a little bit to cue into what was going on, but so I didn't see any fireworks either. So obviously today's show is live. You can call in to our station and talk to Chef Shane, who we will be introducing in a little bit. Our number is 416-245-1534. We are on the social sites, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, so please do follow us. We are at the Health Hub RMC. We put lots of great information out. Other than the show details, of course, we have lots of good health information and tidbits for you, so do follow us. And you can email us at thh@radiomaria.ca. And please do subscribe to our podcast, The Health Hub. We are on iTunes, SoundCloud, all the podcast formats. You can find our podcast on the Radio Maria Canada website. We are www.radiomaria.ca, and on my website, which is www.kathybiasse.com. Our show last week, A Functional Medicine Approach to Autism, is up and ready for you to listen to. That was with Dr. Will Cole. We got some great response to that, some really good information. Truly an integrative approach to autism, and it's such a prevalent thing that really a good one for you to listen to if you have the time. But for today's show, I have to say one of the many rewards and blessings that I have been given doing the Health Hub is the vast amount of information and knowledge that's imparted to me by the wonderful guests we have. Their passions and their where they focus their energy is just it's. In preparation for the shows, I do some background work, and for this show in particular, food waste. I have to say that it's awful, but I was very negligent in the understanding of this topic and the importance that it really has on all of us, and how important the vast amount of food waste that we have is impacting the environment.
Yeah, I think to a degree we're all guilty of food waste.
We are, and I am. There's no question. And, when you're a person that's buying organic food, you know that you have to eat that food quickly because it doesn't keep long. And I am as guilty as anybody for discarding at the end of the week things that don't look good. And just the research that Chef Jordan has prompted me to do in preparation for the show has opened my eyes to a lot of things, and I want to share some of the highlights. I spent a good amount of time in between Puzzle and Netflix doing this research, and it prompted me to write a blog on my website that I'll be posting as well. But just to highlight some things, because I don't know if we'll be able to get into this with Chef today. Perhaps he will take us through some aspects of this, but I do want to sort of set a framework for this conversation, because it is all of our concerns. It's all of our concerns, and it's all of our responsibility. The plastics issue that we've talked about and dealt with is forefront in the news. Garbage waste is a huge impact on the environment. But wait until you hear some of the things I'm going to tell you about food waste. Global food waste, according to Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, of the United Nations, they have done studies, and roughly 1/3 of the food produced in the world for human consumption every year, approximately 1.3 billion tons, gets lost or wasted. The FAO estimated that annually the direct and indirect cost of food waste adds up to $2.6 trillion worldwide.
Wow.
It's phenomenal. And, the scales are so tipped from the haves and the have-nots that this piece of information alone should be prompting us to take a second look at ourselves. Bringing it a little closer to home, the average Canadian household, 1 in 4 produce items gets thrown in the garbage. And that translates, now this study was done a few years ago, so this is not adjusted for cost of inflation. That translates to about $1,100 a year. I'll bet that that's higher. I'll bet that that's higher than that quote. We throw away that amount of money. So another impact to the household. But there are 3 areas of the environment that are significantly impacted by food waste. The first is water. Now, I want you to think about what we do with water. It is essential for growing agriculture, and it is essential for feeding the animals that are used in our food chain. When we throw away food, we waste millions of liters of water that were used to produce our food. Really. I mean, theoretically, we are throwing away this. Consider this. Meat producers are the heaviest water users. Animals drink water, but added to this, water is needed for the feed that the animals eat. It takes about 8 to 10 times more water to produce meat than it does grain. The consumption of animal products contributes to more than 1/4 of the water footprint in humanity. As I was going through this, and I fact check, and this isn't just from one source. It really opened my eyes to things.
We definitely take a lot for granted in trying to figure out how things, happen and how they come together. But this information that you're sharing is, like you said, eye-opening.
It is. We don't consider this. I mean, we're so singularly focused on just our own actions. And we need to take them abroad. We need to see how this is impacting. Next is land waste. So land is used for the production of food for growing crops and, of course, raising and feeding livestock. Discarded food also eventually makes its way to landfills. Food waste is both an ethical waste of land and a physical waste of space. So consider, we're walking through this. We are having our animals graze. We are wasting the food. We are wasting land when we throw away our food. The consumption, and this is another fact, the consumption of animal products contributes to more than 1/4, of the footprint of the human footprint of water. The other thing is, and these are just 3 that I pulled out that stood out to me. The other thing is the production of methane gas. So as food begins to decompose and rot, it releases methane gas. And methane gas is the greenhouse gas, which many scientists believe adversely affects the Earth's climate and temperature. About 20% of Canada's methane emission comes from landfills. I was blown away with that. I really was.
Can you repeat that last line?
So about 20% of Canada's methane emissions comes from landfills. So we throw away food. Food makes its way to landfills. Landfills emit the methane gas. So I really thought that was important to set this up for our talk with Chef Shane, because what he's doing and what he's trying to do and what he's promoting and the book that he's written is a humanitarian step that I think we all need to follow. So I want you to stick with us and listen to what he's doing and what his projects that he's working on and understanding his book. And before we go to break, I'll read you his bio. Chef Shane Jordan is a plant-based chef and environmental practitioner from the UK, specializing in creating meals from surplus food and promoting ways to reduce food waste. Chef Jordan has been described as a pioneer for his imaginative use of food waste in restaurants, and he has written a cookery book entitled Food Waste Philosophy, detailing his alternative approach to creating food. Promoting sustainability outside the kitchen, he has partnered with a host of UK waste initiatives, including Vegfest UK, FoodCycle, Love Food, Hate Waste, and Waste and Resources Action Program. When we get back from our break, we will be discussing some of the things that I've previously mentioned. We will also be talking about what his food waste philosophy is, how we can reduce food waste in our homes, and what his philosophy is on creating and cooking. He will also be sharing with us a recipe or 2 that he has created with food waste. So we will be back in a few minutes.
Just can't believe where my life was at. All that I know is my heart was broken. I don't ever want to go back. Ain't no explanation how I saw the light. He found me and he set me free and he brought me back to life. came to you when everything seemed fine. Or maybe your world was upside down and it's right between me, yeah. No matter when it happened, 7 or 95, move your feet 'cause you are free. Never been more alive. You gotta shake, 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 like you're change. Brand new look so good on you, so shake like you've been changed. Come on, shake, 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 like you're change. Brand new look so good on you, so shake like you've been changed. Come on, shake, shake like you change. Shake like you change. Shake. Great God Almighty, change me. Great God Almighty, He done change me. Great God Almighty, change me. Great God Almighty, He done change me. No matter when it happens, 7 or 95, change me. Oh, move your feet 'cause you are free and never been more alive. You've got to shake, 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 like I'm change. You are brand new, look so good on you, so shake like you've been changed. Come on, shake, 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 like you're change. Brand new, look so good on you, so shake like you've been changed. Come on, shake, shake like you change. Shake like you change. Shake. Great God Almighty done change me. Great God Almighty, He done change me.
You are listening to Radio Maria Canada. We now continue with the program, The Health Hub, hosted by Kathy Biasi.
Welcome back, everybody. Our show today with Chef Jordan is live. Our number is 416-245-1534 if you would like to call in and speak with him. Again, our social sites are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we are at the Health Hub RMC. Chef Jordan, welcome to the show.
Hello, hi. How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Thank you so much for joining us. As I said at the top of the show, I'm not sure if you heard it or not, this issue of food waste and is something that really needs to be addressed by everybody in within our homes in small ways. We can all make a difference, and I think what you are doing is helping to you've made me more aware. Just your presence on the show, I think what you're doing is outstanding. So thank you for that.
That's okay.
Now, where did you get your passion for cooking? Where did that begin?
I think it began with my mum. She would always cook in the house when I was younger, and I would always watch her cook and ask questions. So it was always around me, really, cooking in general. And I was very curious. So I'd ask her questions. What are you doing? What ingredients are you using? And just slowly I would get some responsibility for making pastry when she's making an apple pie or something like that. And I would just slowly learn step by step.
Did you go to school for your expertise, or is this something you cultivated from a young child?
It's a mixture. I mean, at the beginning, it was always about my mum, learning from my mum when it came to cooking. And then in school, they would have cookery lessons, but it wasn't that creative. They had a kind of a map in the sense of, you want you to make this, you want you to make that. But at home, I was able to have the freedom to experiment.
What is your specialty? If you have a specialty, you mentioned that you were doing some of the pastry. Is that the line that you go down, or are you a broad spectrum chef?
I don't really do that much baking, but as a child, I think I would make like jam tarts or something like that, or a crumble or something easy at the beginning when I was small. Then as time went by, I would use pastry and make like quiches and different meals like that.
Now, how old are you?
I'm 35.
35. And has this been your profession all of your life?
It depends. I've had this profession, but I've also had other jobs in education, in sports. I've jumped around different jobs, so I've definitely been busy and active throughout the year.
And all of this has come together to help you become more environmentally aware. Now, do you have a restaurant that you own or that you're working in, or is this something that you go to different places and share your understanding of food waste?
I do more freelance work, so I do go to different places and maybe do some work in a school, etc., community centre. But at the moment, no, I don't have a restaurant. But if I had a restaurant, maybe my mum would run it and she would have a passion for the restaurant business, but it's not really something that I would look to do. But I like doing workshops.
Excellent. Now, have you ever been to Canada doing any of your work?
No, never been to Canada. I hope one day, I can go to the US and Canada and a couple of other locations. I hope to, learn about other things that happen in other countries, not just on social media. So I hope.
We have someone that was on the show before. His name is actually very similar to yours. I was saying to the guys in the booth, Chef Jagger. He is also working in Canada to try and promote the end of food waste and feeding people that, with things that restaurants get rid of and food like that. So I think, with you people being involved in this industry, you've got a first-hand view of how much waste goes on. When did you start seeing this for yourself, the waste of food?
Well, it all started with FoodCycle. So FoodCycle is like an organization. They work in a community, and basically volunteers cycle to local shops. They take the food away that they were going to throw away, and they make a community meal. And this amazing organization, and I went there for a community meal. I didn't know who they were, and at the end of the meal, I asked, what's that on your apron? It says FoodCycle. What do you do? And from that point on, I volunteered, and I had a chance to see, the food for itself, like what would be thrown away and how it's edible, and it would be thrown away, and then making a community meal. And it just got me interested in why people would throw this food away in the first place. And just that experience just kind of made that interest that I had, that kind of passion. So it just started from there.
Are the laws where you are in the UK, are they very strict about what can be taken from restaurants and repurposed for other people? Did you have to sort of wade through all of that as you were developing your methods for cooking and going into FoodCycle? Do you have a lot of things that you're constricted with by the laws in the UK?
Definitely. I mean, most of the products are all fresh. So it's not taking sandwiches, and they're not taking things, past a certain, use by date, etc. It's all just fresh produce. But the problem is, they would usually throw this produce away because they want it to look fresh for the week after. So they would usually throw this away, and we would just make a community meal from it. So there are policies in place, legislation in place regarding food, but most of it's just to do with the aesthetics of the food and visually just taking away things that don't look as pleasing.
Now, that's the second or third time that the aesthetics of food has popped up in one of our shows. In the UK, do you have grocery stores? I think it was in France, if I may be mistaken about this, that they were taking these basically ugly produce and selling them at a lower cost. Are you guys doing the same thing in the UK right now?
We are. We call it wonky fruit or wonky vegetables, and they're at a lower price, and it basically says is wonky vegetables, wonky fruit, and they've tried to have like a comedic element to it and say it's a funny shape, but it's still edible, it's fine, and it's doing quite well actually. But I think it's just addressing the kind of the beauty standards in food, which is funny. You usually apply this to other human beings, the way it looks, but people are very particular about their oranges and their lemons looking really, really yellow and looking a certain color and a certain shape. And there's a whole kind of aspect of food perfection, which you kind of wonder, where did this come from? Is it a mixture of, advertisement and the lighting and the way it looks? And, there's so many elements to why we want food to be a certain way, even though we're going to cut this up and chop it and basically make it into food. We're not going to do anything with it just for visual purposes. It might look good in the fridge or in your kitchen, but apart from that, it's going to be chopped up and eaten. So it's strange that we have this perfection in our head.
It is strange, and I don't know how much you get into the actual nutritional value of these foods, but there is a camp that says that sometimes these ugly fruits are more nutritious for you because of the phytoalexins associated with these foods, and it's odd that I guess we are a group of aesthetic people that we hold a lot of value in how things look. Because people would much rather have their apples waxed and looking shiny and pretty than naturally pulled off of a tree where it's not as shiny, but probably a little bit more healthy for you.
Definitely. I just think most people, there's not a connection with food actually being grown or in the soil or on a tree, and they just want it a certain way, and there's just not that connection. And any kind of blemish or something on the fruit or the vegetables, and we become very particular. Some people have, and they won't pick that one, and they want it to look a certain way.
When you're educating people about food waste, how deeply do you go into environmental aspects of it, or are you working with people on the front of just not wasting?
I try and cover as much as possible, but is about my approach. I try not to be too preachy. I try not to dictate and have a kind of ideology of, okay, this is how I want the world to be, or food. I try and give small portions of information, and if they like that small piece, they can come to me and say, well, do you have any more information? And I can give them a link or information myself. So it depends on the person, but my approach is always not to make it too, oh no, it's an epidemic and we have to do something, and not too panicky, but to just make it in quite a friendly approach and say, the small parts that you can do in your life can really benefit, and just show the positive sides of food waste and environmental work in general, really.
Well, give us the dynamic of the people that you are working with.
Different organizations. I mean, Love Food Hate Waste have supported me and given me leaflets, and I've spoken about events that are happening. They said, "Do you want to attend?" And they have a great link with the community. So that's one of the big ones, as well as FoodCycle. I have experience of volunteering for them, and I reach out on social media, or I might see what another city's doing that have FoodCycle there. And the key thing for me is just reaching out to different people in the community, far and wide, and just having a nice, positive approach and trying to listen to them instead of trying to fill them with my knowledge. I'm listening to them and trying to connect why people are throwing away, why they're throwing away, what they could do, and try and find alternatives rather than telling someone to stop doing something.
Right. I guess with the different, you've got to approach sort of appealing on the monetary aspect of food waste, and I guess with the activists, you're dealing more with the environmental sphere of it. So I guess you're very all around when it comes to dealing with food waste. Why, before we go to break here, why do you think that when it comes to food waste, cooking is so important?
I think it's the way we were educated. When I was cooking, I was, especially in school, or even my mum would say, okay, cut this away, put this in the bin, and use this part of the food, and it becomes a habit. You cut certain parts away. And as time went on, I started to question, why am I cutting this part away? Is it edible? If it is, why am I throwing it away? Can't I use it for a meal? Is this part edible? And you start to question things. And I think that's what people should do really in cooking, because there's a responsibility of you purchasing food and knowing all the parts of it, and to know not only is part edible or not, but after you've finished your meal, to know, okay, what can I do? What's my recycling within my city or my town? What can I do with this? Can I compost? And really think about your food from a bigger perspective of just cooking and eating.
Yeah, it comes around so often with guests like you that are really, they're provokers, people that are trying to change things. Because we always do things the same, we accept that as the norm. But when you stop and think like you did about, well, then why am I actually doing that? Why am I throwing away the skins? You really do provoke people to think in an alternative way. And I think that is, if nothing else, trying to get people to think outside the box, I think, is just a profound thing to do in a society where we run with the masses. So for that, I give you so much credit and great kudos. And when we get back from our break, I want to get really deep into what you're doing, your philosophy of food waste. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
What will it be like when my pain is gone and all the worries of this world just fade away? What will it be like when you call my name? In that moment when I see you face to face, I'm waiting my whole life to hear you say, well done, my good and faithful one. Welcome to the place where you belong. Well done, my beloved child. You have run the race and now you're home. Welcome to the place where you belong. What will it be like when tears are washed away and every broken thing will finally be made whole? What will it be like when I come into your glory, standing in the presence of a love so beautiful? I'm waiting my whole life for that day. I will live my life to hear you say, well done, my good and faithful one. Welcome to the place where you belong. Well done, my beloved child. You have run the race and now you're home. Welcome to the place where you belong. What will it be like when I hear that sound? All of heaven's angels crying out, singing holy, holy, holy are you, Lord. Singing holy, holy, holy are you, Lord. Singing holy, holy, holy are you, Lord. Waiting my whole life for that day. Until then I'll live to hear you say, well done, my good and faithful one. Welcome to the place where you belong. Well done, my beloved child. You have run the race and now you're home. Welcome to the place where you belong. Well done.
You are listening to The Health Hub here on Radio Maria Canada. A Catholic voice wherever you are. To contact us and be a part of the show, please call 416-245-1534. We now continue with the program. Here once again is your host, Kathy Biasi.
Welcome back, everybody. We are speaking with Chef Shane Jordan. He has written a book called Food Waste Philosophy, Promoting Ways to Reduce Food. Chef Shane, let's talk about your progression into your eating styles, cooking food, preparing raw food. Where do you stand now with vegetarianism and raw foodism? Are you in one camp or the other?
I try and say that I'm plant-based, so I try not to kind of pick a side because the I eat might be vegetarian or it might be vegan. So I try and stay plant-based to try and stay neutral. But I kind of jump between both camps.
Were you always in the plant-based diet, or were you a meat eater as you grew up?
I was a meat eater. It's funny because my sister was a vegetarian first, and I used to kind of mock her, and then I became a vegetarian, and then she became a pescatarian, and she liked to remind me, oh, I was vegetarian first, and you were negative, and I was like, I know. And that was interesting, just how the mindset changes and you kind of learn and you evolve as a person. But, you know, years ago, I had such a negative view on vegetarianism. Now, when I have negative views by other people, I'm a bit more understanding because I understand where that comes from because I used to be that person.
What made you change from an all-around diet, including meat, to a vegetarian diet?
I think I watched a documentary and it was talking about, because at the time I played a lot of basketball and it spoke about, cutting out red meat out of your diet and you feeling lighter. And I think, I was playing basketball at the time and I wanted to dunk and be lighter on my feet, etc. So I cut red meat out of my diet and then slowly it was, chicken and then fish, etc. And then as time went by, became a vegetarian. So it happened gradually just because of a documentary, really.
Interesting. So when it comes to promoting food waste, what do you feel are the environmental issues that are most important to you?
For me, it's more about your local environment. So when it's about food waste, it's not filling your bins, full of food and having foxes and rats and, encouraging that type of vermin around your local environment and keeping your kitchen clean and, the whole kind of permaculture philosophy of food being recycled and made into a fertilizer to grow more food and just having that whole philosophy of food waste as a resource. That's important to me. And obviously there are environmental aspects as well. You can link it to climate change, reducing food waste. You can link it to many other environmental issues, etc. But I try and keep it less of a global and talk about the world and talk about more of the local environment because it feels more personal when you talk to someone about their local environment than overwhelming them with the world and you saving the world. And it could be sometimes too much.
Is it a novel way of thinking for people when you talk about this? Are people as enlightened as I was when I researched this? Do you find that they are very in awe of what you're talking to them about?
I think it's about your approach. I've been in so many different situations where someone would talk about food waste or environmental issues and they'd use complex academic words, or they'd be a bit too forward, or they would talk too much and it would kind of scare people or put them off, or they think, it's not my problem, or they get defensive. And I see other people have a kind of a friendly approach and give them bite-sized information and apply it to their lives. And I've slowly saw both approaches and said, actually, this one's more effective in the way you engage with people. And I feel that people don't want to feel defensive. So if you don't make them defensive, they're more open and they can share with you the issues that they have or the things that they do and try and come to a kind of reasonable conversation of, so do you think you could change this or do you think you could do that? And just have a conversation rather than one person preaching to another.
Well, treat us as a group that you might be talking to and educating on food waste. Where, if we're walking to this arena, pie-eyed and fresh-faced, where would you start with us? Tell us what you would say to your group about, here's where we want to start reducing waste. You're the professional in using skins and things to create recipes. So enlighten us onto how you might talk to us about reducing waste.
Well, the first thing I'd say is, you aware of food waste and in the media and social media and talk about the tons of food waste being wasted. And then I'd say, well, do you, in your household, do you think you waste a lot of food, or is there food that uneaten that you don't eat? And talk about what they eat and whether they have a recycling system in their local environment that can get rid of waste, and talk about composting and then talk about storage and say, do you use your freezer to freeze your bread, or do you have Tupperware to put your food in, and do you label it? The difference between best before and other labels, and have that conversation, have that dialogue where it's helpful, and you give them tips, and and then you give them leaflets and you give them information, and it's just a casual conversation about food and storage, and show the pros of storing food and it lasting longer, and using food for other recipes, and just keep it very positive, this will help you. And if something helps you, you usually are in favor of it if there's a better alternative. So that's my kind of approach.
So when we're talking about in the kitchen, one of the specialties you have are using skins and things for new recipes. So you talked about, you were brought up to cut pieces off, and why are we wasting those? Can you give us recipe ideas or tips in the kitchen where normally we would throw away particular parts of things? How have you changed this into productive, healthy, tasteful recipes?
Well, I start very simply. Just there's some people that have sandwiches, and they might, cut the ends off their sandwiches and throw them away. And I might say, maybe you could, fry those parts and add some chives and make some croutons and put them in a soup, Or if you're going to cut away the skin from a potato, maybe you might want to use those as chips as well, the potato skins. Or it's just looking at the things that you cut away and having a mindset where, can I use this for a recipe? And if I can, is there a way for me to put this in the right type of bin? I mean, in the UK, we have these little caddy bins, which are like miniature bins with a compostable bin liner, and we put that into the caddy bins, in the small caddy bins in your kitchen, and then you put it in the bigger caddy bins outside, and they take it away, the council, and then it's recycled into a fertilizer to grow more food. So that's helpful in getting rid of your the food that you don't eat, instead of putting it in a regular bin and it going to landfill, or creating more waste outside of your house and attracting rodents and things that you don't want to eat from your bin.
Now, when I was sort of preparing for things in the show today, I saw a recipe that maybe, I don't know if you know it off by heart, but giving us an idea of how you can use banana skin peels, banana skins.
Yeah, that was one of the kind of recipes where it was very outside of the box. I worked in a restaurant, and someone was eating a banana, and I think they ate like 2 bananas, and they put all the skin in the bin. And I said, look at all, he's eating the banana, look at all that wasted skin. It'd be great if you could eat that. I just said as a joke, and they said, I don't know, maybe you can. So I Googled it, and I saw that in other cultures you can boil the banana skin, and it's actually edible. And then I went in the next day and said, hey, it's actually edible if you boil it. And I said, I'm going to make something from it. And, you get those strange looks like, Shane, why you want to make something from banana skins? You get that look, the side eye, it's like, that's a bit strange. I'm like, work with me here. So I boiled it, and I tried it, and it didn't taste of anything. It has like a taste where, like mushrooms almost. It doesn't have a taste, but it does. It does. It's a very peculiar taste. So you have to add some spices to it, and I decided to make a curry. So I boiled it, and I put it into a curry, and I gave it to someone and said, try and guess what's in it. And they were trying, and I told them it's banana skins, and then there was kind of like a horrified, I've eaten banana skins. And then they were like, it doesn't taste like banana. I'm like, I know. What does it taste like? It tastes nice. And it was just, it was a kind of strange moment for them. And then they put it on the menu, and then people were eating it, and like, oh, it's banana skins, and it kind of got around. And yeah, it was a great way to show people, what you can eat and what's edible, and to look at their food from a different perspective. And yeah, it was good experience.
That's excellent. What about apple peels? Have you done anything with apple peels?
I think for me, with apple peels, it can be, some people don't like to eat it because it's quite tough to eat, very chewy. And I like to make crumbles from it. Once you boil something, it gets very, very soft, and you can make apple crumble or a pie just using the peels. So it's I find that very, very useful. Or add some raisins or some sultanas with it as well, and some cinnamon, and it's really nice.
Excellent. Those are two great tips right there. And then the I don't know if people grabbed it, but he was talking about using the potato skins for chips. So I guess do you dehydrate those, or do you fry those?
You can lightly fry them. You don't have to put lots of oil. You can just put them in a bowl, put some oil, some chives, etc. You just lightly coat them, and you can fry them, or you can bake them as well. If you don't want to go for the fried route, you can bake them, and they're so nice and really crispy. And some people, it's the little simple things that people forget that you can do. And it's amazing when you see people and their eyes kind of light up, like, oh, I didn't really think of that. And it's so positive when you're doing something like that. It's amazing.
Yeah, the skins of most fruits and vegetables are quite nutritious too. So I don't know why. And as I said, one of the blessings I have doing the show is to have my eyes opened by people like you. I would never have thought of some of the things. The banana skins, 100%, I would never have thought of. So that's great. Now tell us about your book. As we're approaching the end of the show, I want to give you some time to talk about your book and why you wrote it.
I wrote the book because people would always ask me, how did you get into this? Like, it's so peculiar. There'd be kind of like, not stereotype, but like, there aren't many, Black British or people of a certain culture or particular race involved in environmental work. So they'd look at me a bit different and say, how did you get into this? And what's your journey? Because I'm from the inner city, and it's not something that my friends or I've been around to say that I've been encouraged by these types of activities. Cooking, yeah, but environmental work, it was peculiar for some people, and they'd want to, in a positive way, ask, why did you get into this? What's your drive? Like, what makes you want to do this and devote your time to it? So I decided to compile all my stories, the journey from the beginning, into a book, and put some recipes, put some tips, put some funny stories, just be open as possible. Talk about the days when I used to throw things away, and recipes that I went too far and tried too many ingredients and they weren't successful. Things where it opens me out. I'm not trying to be Mr. Perfect, like Captain Planet, great, I've done everything amazing. I can talk about the things that I've done that haven't worked, and I can kind of smile and laugh with my audience when they read this, and just be an open book, really, and just talk about the journey and what my plans for the future, and just take them on a nice journey through what I'm doing. And that's what I decided to do with the book. I didn't want to make it too academic. I didn't want to make it full of pie charts and graphs and how many tons of food waste we're wasting, and make it to the point where certain people would want to pick this book up and others wouldn't. I wanted it to be a book where anyone could just pick this book up, look at a chapter, and just read it and say, actually, this is interesting. The language is very everyday language, and it's not too serious, but it's not too playful, but it's a mixture of things. And at the end of it, you'd want to talk to someone about this book and maybe rethink the way you're doing things and your approach. So that was my hope.
Wonderful. And is this book available on Amazon?
It is available on Amazon. It's got lots of positive ratings, and it's done very well, and people like it and they enjoy it, and it's just nice to have something out there, all your thoughts and feelings out there, and to know that people really learn a lot from the book, and
Wonderful.
They tell you, well, I've really, changed me. That's an amazing feeling.
Great. And what are the future plans for Shane Jordan?
Well, I've done so much work in the UK. I'd love to go, either to maybe Canada or the US. I've got connections in different places, so I'd love to see what people are doing in other countries and just learn as much as possible. But I'd love to get out of the UK and to do some work in other countries.
With the work you're doing, it sounds like it won't be a hard thing for you to do to spread your knowledge. I think it's, as I said, a great thing for everybody to learn about food waste and to get a hold of your book and to see what direction we can take, little steps to help the environment, to help our pocketbook, so many things. I want to send everybody the social site. So on Twitter, your handle is @foodwasteshane. On Instagram, it's @Shane.Jordan. Is there a space there, Shane, for food waste, or what is the actual Instagram?
I think it's like an underscore. I think I should remember my Instagram, but
Yeah,
I think there is something under there. Yeah.
I've had it typed up here, and there's a line there, so I imagine it's an underscore, but easy enough to Google Shane Jordan on Instagram. And then if you want to find out more about the book, just go to foodwastephilosophy.com. Shane, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate what you do and you taking the time to be with us.
That's okay. I appreciate talking to you guys.
Wonderful. Everybody, next week on the Health Hub, we will be talking to Dr. Glenn Livingston about never binging again. So that's going to be a great show, and we will talk to you all next week on the Health Hub.
You have been listening to The Health Hub, hosted by